Hello, this is Trish Garner with the League of Women Voters of Portland, and you are watching the Video Voters Guide or listening to our podcast. We're here today to talk with candidates running in the November 5th, 2024 general election. We're grateful for the support of the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Portland Education Fund, the Weiss Foundation, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. With me today is Daniel DeMelo. He's running for District 3 Portland City Council, and that generally covers most of Southeast Portland. Welcome, Daniel. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this office.
Hi, I'm Daniel DeMelo. I'm a second generation American. I'm a Kearns resident, and I am in this race because of the experience I've had over the last couple of years, chairing both the Joint Office of Homeless Services Community Budget Advisory Committee and the Central Budget Advisory Committee at Multnomah County, providing that community input and oversight over $4 billion in public spending on behalf of 800,000 Multnomah County residents. And really, in particular, that experience on the joint office has shown me that we are not addressing unsheltered homelessness with the urgency and the care that is required to get people off of our streets. I won't bore you with the dry and frustrating details. I had an op-ed in the Oregonian published around this time last year, but the headline is that this year we went to the city and county and said, look, you're going to spend $400 million on homeless services this year. That's $70,000 for every single person on the street. Can you commit and say that this plan will lead to at least one fewer people sleeping on the street? And they could not and would not make that commitment. And I'm a numbers guy. I'm a software engineer and engineering manager by trade. I know that if you want to end unsheltered homelessness, that begins with reducing unsheltered homelessness, which begins with getting at least one fewer people sleeping on our streets. That's why I'm committed in this race, in this new city council, making sure that we are building enough shelter capacity to end unsheltered homelessness over the next 2 or 3 years.
Here's another question. What are your ideas for working productively with the other council members from your district?
I am very appreciative of the fact that this system means that I've gotten to know a lot of the other people running in this race already, because in some ways we're opponents, but in some ways we're future colleagues, right? I think, frankly, I would rather have the city council pass policy I disagree with that has good transparency and accountability metrics in place than have policy that I agree with pass without transparency and accountability. And so that's because I think good policy demonstrates itself with good results. So working with the other councilors on council, I'm committed to, above all, making sure that whenever we're passing policy, whenever we're spending public dollars, we're doing so efficiently, transparently, and with accountability.
Another question, what, if any, actions would you consider to trying to address the current concerns related to the critical energy infrastructure hub on the Willamette River?
Yeah, I was able to attend the was it Rumble on the River? They had a forum about risk bonds. I think that's a good way to approach the problem, make sure that people who are engaged in risky activity are prepared financially to pay for the huge risk that's involved there. I'd like to see that facility at least moved, if not, converted over time.
You're listening to the Video Voters Guide interview and podcast of Daniel DeMelo, who's running for District 3 Portland City Council, and that covers most of Southeast Portland. So are you satisfied with the performance of the Joint Office of Homeless Services? And if not, go ahead. Go ahead.
Absolutely not. I'm thankful that I think they've been able to show that they are sheltering more people, that they're housing more people over the last year. But for the last 9 years, we have not had any year in which we've built more shelter than people have become unsheltered. And so even though we're building more shelter, we're still not building shelter at a rate faster than people are becoming unsheltered. And to me, that's the number one way to assess both the viability of the office and frankly the new city council system. We're running a huge experiment here. And I have called and talked with more than 15,000 Portlanders. And I always like to ask people what they think the top issues we're up against are. And 90% of the time, people tell me it's homelessness and issues directly related to it. So when we're looking in a year and a half about whether the new city council, whether this was the right move to change the government in this way, I think the way to measure that is to make sure that after a year and a half, we finally have less unsheltered people on our streets.
What skills, experience, and interests distinguish you from other candidates for this position?
You know, my data-driven approach, I think in particular, uh, has been really useful for me, at least in kind of understanding these issues, and it helped me earn the endorsement of our firefighters, of our EMTs, of our police officers, and our 911 operators. And I think having some city councilors who know how websites work is frankly a little bit important because we still, to this day, we have portlandoregon.gov and another Portland website. It doesn't make any sense. When I sat down with the police union, I told them I grew up as a punk kid here in Portland. I went to protests. I went to protests that turned into riots. Anyone sitting here at the table with me very well may have been someone who pepper sprayed me. And I've been beaten with batons. I've had beanbag rounds, like giant welts on me while I was covering homelessness protests up in Olympia. I had my bingo card filled out, so to speak, but at the same time, I've also earned that support of our public safety officers and also that experience at the Joint Office Community Budget Advisory Committee, that Central Budget Advisory Committee at Multnomah County. I know how to get really into the weeds on budget. I know how to make sure that we're following through on our progressive and our Portland principles. So I think I've had experience kind of across the board, but on the same time, I'm not someone with years of experience on the inside who's made promises, who have connections that happen in, cigar-filled rooms, right? I have that experience on the inside advocating for the interests of us on the outside. And that's what I want to bring into this new city council.
Thank you, Daniel DeMelo. This concludes our video voters guide and podcast interview of the League of Women Voters of Portland of Daniel DeMelo running for District 3 City Council in Portland, and that covers most of Southeast Portland. Remember, Election Day is November 5th. Be sure to inform yourself about the candidates and exercise your right to vote. Thank you for your interest.